Welcome, everyone, to the Empowerment Project podcast. I'm Andrea Bosco, and we have the lovely Dr. Shar here.
Hey, everyone.
And again, for the second week in a row, we have Christina Forlinieri, who's here to once again share her amazing insight. Now, if you did not listen to last week's episode, we encourage you to go back because we introduced Christina to everyone. She shared her amazing story, got very vulnerable, and we are just so grateful that you were able to share that. I think a lot of people are going to learn from your journey. So we thank you, but we weren't quite finished yet. We touched a little bit on this topic and we felt we need to come back and continue this discussion. So where we ended last week was we're talking about how we decided to put out a survey to educators to get their feedback on how they feel in terms of mental health and the support in the school system and whatnot. And we got back some initial findings and we wanted to talk about that. And this is specific to education, but it can apply, I think, to a lot of workplaces and just how, in general, employees are supported in the mental health space. It helps us in the work that we do with the Empowerment Project. And so, yeah, we thought it was really important. And I'm actually going to have Christina explain it because it was her beautiful idea to do it. And she came up with the questions, having worked in the school system for many years. So, Christina, I'll let you kind of explain the thought process behind it all.
Okay, well, with talking to a lot of educator friends in my life and just going through my experience, and now working with this amazing company that gets to help support educators, I had this idea where, you know what, why don't we tap into the minds a little bit deeper of these educators to see what is the current picture? Because for those of you that don't work in education, you might not realize that teaching now versus 10, 15 years ago, very different.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching now post-pandemic, very different.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of new concerns with students that are arising, a lot of different behaviors that are being dealt with. And on top of that is a lot of educators that are struggling. So I thought it was important to get a little bit of data and see what people are experiencing with their own mental health, what they are observing with the students around them. And that will better help us cater these workshops and even inform the administration when we're pitching these workshops. Like, this is what people want. This is what people need, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was important to touch upon how long people have worked in the school system. So these are some of the questions that we asked. These are all Ontario educators, obviously, not just like teachers, but we asked for all individuals working in the school system, how long they've worked in the education, and rating the current. This is all anonymous, obviously, so people were truthful, but rating their own mental health, rating the mental health of the students they're currently serving in their school community, and really asking them, hey, if you were in charge of people coming into your school, talking to educators on a PA day, what kind of topics would you want to hear? Right? Because this is who we're doing it for. So we needed to really get to the source and ask, what do you need? So we asked, what kind of topics are you interested in? And the preferred workshops for, well, let me backtrack a little bit. So the mental health well-being of educators is low. It's 3 and under out of 5. And yeah, which I am not surprised. None of anything I read of these findings is surprising to me, to be honest. It's very validating for what I've experienced. And the same exact scoring for the students, 3, 2 and under. So, it's a snapshot of the mental well-being state of the school system right now. With regards to the workshops, a lot of it was work-life balance. A lot of the reoccurring theme was burnout, work-life balance, talking to the educator specifically, and you know, just how to support their own mental health. A lot of the common thread in the findings was a lot of educators were like, all we're told is how to deal with the mental well-being of kids, how to regulate their emotions, how to provide, self-regulation, emotional intelligence, all that, whatever, into my program. But what about me? That's a little bit lost, where that isn't being put into the educators as often as it is expected to be put into the students. So I think that's one of the things that, again, not surprised by,
Yeah.
but that's one of the kind of themes that I saw in the results of the survey. um, Managing stress and burnout, going back to my story, I'm not a one-off. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of people in the situation, maybe on a leave or anticipating a leave. So it's difficult. So having those sessions or workshops to really identify how to identify burnout, signs of burnout, managing stress. So those are things that a lot of people want more of in their school for the educators.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the whole mindfulness, like, when I was working in the school, we started an initiative where we would do lunchtime yoga. We set up a projector and we put Peloton yoga on, and a bunch of the teachers would come, and we would do a 30-minute flow, and it significantly changed the impact of your day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very powerful.
Yeah.
So those initiatives need to be a little bit more thought about for the educators,
Mm-hmm.
different wellness opportunities. Because listen, we have to be in the classroom. No one's saying that.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's professional development days, maybe a little bit of more focus needs to be put on taking care of the educators' mental well-being, how to, helping them manage their stress. Like, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
And
because
I think
you're very rarely asked that. Like, how are
no,
you doing? How are
no,
you managing?
we're just
yeah.
asked about the students, right?
And I
Which,
know, yeah, and you hit it on the head. And so from our experience, when we go and talk to schools and school boards about the offerings we can provide, and we hear this all the time. It's that these teachers need it, but there's no funding for it, because the messaging is that all the money needs to go support the children, and it's hard for them to like be fiscally responsible, um or even when it comes to auditing time, um to justify spending money on the teachers, which to me is so completely
it's
backwards.
backwards.
It's so complete, because parents, if you're one of the parents that are complaining about supporting teachers, I want you to listen, because these teachers are with your child for 6 hours a day. That's
If
like,
not more, if not
if
more,
not
right?
more, if not more, that's like 30% of their day. Okay, a third of their day is spent with these people. And I'm sure, and I've seen it. So my daughter's in high school now. She's gone through many teachers. My son is in elementary school. He's gone through many teachers, and I've seen the difference when they come home and they're like, my teacher was in a great mood today,
Yeah.
and we had so much fun, and we did this and we did that, and I learned this and I learned that, versus, oh, my teacher was in the worst mood. We, you know, we were yelled at.
Yeah.
We had to sit in our seats. We couldn't move around. We couldn't do any. It is a complete transition of energy from
Yeah.
what's happening. Like, the teacher is the leader of the classroom, and that is going to dictate and set the foundation for how that classroom is run that day. And listen, I'm not saying that teachers need to be on freaking cloud nine every day. I mean, nobody is. But if these teachers are struggling and they're coming in, and, we talked about this last week, and the burnout that they're experiencing, this is directly impacting our children and the way they're learning and just everything. And if a parent is sitting there saying, nope, we got to get more funding for my kids, and nothing goes to the no, it's the complete, like, it should be one and the same.
Mm-hmm.
It should be one and the same in supporting these teachers.
The focus needs
And
to
I'm
be
not just
shifted.
saying this because we could provide that help. It
No.
could be anyone.
Yeah.
And the other thing I hear too is that they have the support through maybe your benefits providers, but they choose not to take the support. So can you talk a little bit about that like perception?
Yeah. So, having gone through my experience, again, I want to preface this that I'm not speaking ill of school boards and,
Yeah.
administration. I'm just speaking about my experience, but going through, mental health struggles and, the experiences that I did, the only thing that I really was offered was a website of links, and when you're, and maybe that's all that's offered to, give, and that it is a systematic thing. And, that's just the reality. But there has to be a little bit more support on a daily where to avoid the amount of teachers that are getting burnt out. Because it used to be a little bit more less frequent that teachers would be taking leaves. Now it's just so common.
Yeah.
It's becoming a norm. And
Yeah.
let's really look at that. What does that mean? These people are burnt out. The job that, it's funny, I was reading an article this morning that said, how about being a mom and how we're supposed to parent like we don't have a job, and that it's almost an impossible job,
Right.
that we're required to do.
Right.
Being a teacher is becoming that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost becoming very similar, because not only delivering a program to a bunch of different learners, individual learners,
Yeah.
and dealing with different behaviors, and not having the support that we used to have in the classroom, because it's impossible for one person to be doing. And on top of that, it's let's, do these extras, extra this, extra that, all these responsibilities that people don't really know are falling on the plate of the teachers, So it's a lot. It's a lot. And it's the supports on a daily level, and investing in the teachers' wellness is very crucial, because it's translating into how these classrooms are being run. And it's not their fault.
I want to add to that, because you're right. I mean, what Andrea said about the whole like energetic transmission, that's huge, right? And we know that even from a grassroots level, like, let's just talk about being a parent, right? Let's just talk about being a parent. If you're coming home from work and you're in a bad mood, what do you think that's going to do to your home environment, right? You're probably going to yell at your kids. You're going to be short with them. Your child could have a meltdown. They might yell at you. They might go run into the room, slam door. Like, we have to be responsible for what we're bringing into any environment that we're in. Number one, right? So if a teacher has those resources, or anybody for that matter, if you have those mindfulness resources and you can collect yourself before you walk into a space, you are guaranteed to impact everybody around you with what you're bringing in, right? Like, that's always going to happen. That's number one. Number two, if these people would like that to happen in their classrooms, it's very important for the people above them to follow suit, right? So like any CEO of a company, any principal of a school, like, they have to kind of preach and practice these things in order to be able to give all the teachers permission to be able to do the same. Because I know one of the biggest frustrations for Andrew and I when we were doing corporate was, they'd say, we'd love you to come in and do a mindfulness presentation. And Andrew and I would prepare and, be ready to go. And then, we would show up and there would be 4 people. We had 50 people sign up, but only 4 people showed up to the presentation. And you know what? We're still getting paid for the hour. But again, it's not just about us getting paid for the hour. It's all this prep that we did in hopes of making a difference in somebody's life
And reaching more
and
people.
reaching more people. But when the CEO or the president or the managers aren't showing up, these employees really don't feel like they have permission to show up either. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
that was probably one of the greatest frustrations for us when we were doing that kind of work. So it does, start from the top. That's what I would say. And I think you're 100% right. Like, energetically, if we're not changing ourselves, then our our environment's going to be reflective. It's just a mirror. Our environment is a mirror of who we are
Yeah.
and what we are in any given moment.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's even another layer. So yes, it's the management or the administration that needs to see the value in supporting mental health and stress management and all that. But then there's another layer, because what we also tend to hear is that there's no space to do this work on top of all the extra asks that we
Mhm.
need to fulfill in a school year in terms of the curriculum that needs to be addressed. So not only, do we have to get through the maths, the sciences, the languages, and all that stuff and make sure we reach our, test score targets and all that stuff, that now we're asking to support children on a mental health level, and there's just no room. Like there's no room there's no time to do that. So I think there's also something from a ministry point of view that needs to be addressed in terms of, like, how can we restructure in a way to make this part of a priority to alleviate something else? Because if we are to fast forward into the workforce, right? Like, so children are learning their workplace skills at school, right? Let's face it, they're learning organization, they're learning time management, they're learning conflict resolution in peer groups, and they're learning all that stuff to hopefully bring them into the workforce where they're going to be a well-serving individual to contribute to society, right? Like if that's sort of the goal, if we're looking at things. But what's happening is, if we're not giving the time and the energy to both the teachers and the students, is that by the time they get into the workforce, okay, yeah, they may know how to solve an amazing math equation or write a great essay, but their emotional intelligence and that their ability to manage their behaviors and their stress is not quite there. And then that's causing them to leave the workforce for whatever reason, or have these breakdowns or cause conflict within the group. So it's just like a trickle down effect.
Yeah.
And so, if we're trying to create these sort of well-rounded individuals, and I get it, like there's so many other factors. Like I'm not just saying it's the schools that need to do all the work. There's so many other factors, but it is a real core of where students are starting. Then we need to sort of see that shift into more attention.
And if the
um
teachers are like the managers of the
yes.
classroom, right? Then we need to make sure that they're taken care of, right? And Andrea and I were at a school last week, and um, we were talking to the teacher that runs the SHSM program, which is a specialty high skills major program, and that is on top of the courses that the teacher's already teaching. She said that she teaches courses, and in this particular board, now they've introduced a new initiative, and that initiative has been dumped onto the teachers that do SHSM, but they don't have the space to do it. And so they actually invited Andrea and I in to do a great presentation for the teachers in hopes to, get them excited about SHSM and want to participate. And she was saying that no one decided to join the program. So they're not only taking care of their own classes, but they're taking care of the SHSM plus this other initiative because no other teachers have decided to volunteer. So why? Why is that happening, right? Why are teachers saying, no, I'm sorry, I don't want to do anything more than what I need to do?
Right.
And a lot of people argue, oh, teachers are lazy. Like, we were talking about this in the last episode, maybe they think that, why do people think that, why aren't teachers doing more? They get the summers off, they get March break, they get 2 weeks at Christmas. But are we actually talking? Are we looking to see what's happening in this classroom, what the kids are bringing in, what their needs are? And we've only just taken out phones from the classroom this year. So since COVID, okay, so not only were kids on their phones all throughout COVID, because again, they were on the computer for school and then that was their entertainment, but then they were allowed to bring it in the classroom. So you don't think that that's having an impact on the way kids are learning? Like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I feel like the workload is already unrealistic.
Yeah.
Again, well, let's compare it to being a mom. The workload is already
Mhm.
baseline hard, and the responsibilities just keep getting added,
Yeah.
and the supports just keep getting taken away.
Yeah.
So parents really need to understand it's not lazy teachers, it's maxed out teachers,
Yeah.
maxed out educators that are already struggling to get through the day-to-day tasks, dealing with behaviors and such that they're not getting the supports. So what do you think's going to happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's interesting because my daughter said this a couple times in the last couple weeks, in that when she's talking about her teachers, and I say to her, listen, they're coming from their own place and they have their own issues, and she's like, but mom, they chose to be a teacher,
Mhm.
My
right?
my older son said that before.
Yeah, this
It's
is the
their own,
mentality.
yeah.
And I'm sure there's people that believe that. It's like, well, you chose to do that. You chose to get into this profession. And I understand that there is a level of responsibility that teachers need to take, that, okay, yeah, you chose to step into this field. Got it. Thank you. I chose this. But I mean, maybe you can explain this even more, Christina, is that it's not like really clearly understood exactly what they're getting into. And I think there is a level of like ideology around, oh, I'm going to be this teacher, this educator, this childcare, and I'm going to change lives, and I'm going to, be this sort of beautiful. And yes, that's totally possible, but there are roadblocks, and there is red tape, and there's things that can block you from achieving that. And it doesn't mean that you still didn't make the right choice, right? It's so like, I just hate that. I hate when people throw out there, well, they chose to be teachers. Well, yes, I
It
get it.
doesn't look like the expected role at this moment. That's
But
Yeah.
what it
remember,
is.
that's with everything, right? You're making a choice, but the reasons why you choose something are different. There might be people that chose to become teachers because they do have the summers off and they do have March break off and they do have 2 weeks off at Christmas. So that could have been their reason for choosing the profession at that time. And then there are those teachers that say, you know what? I want to make a difference in a child's life because when I was younger, I had this amazing teacher who believed in me, and I want to be that same person. And
Mhm.
now, okay, for not just a teaching profession, but every other profession as well, right? It doesn't matter if you're in healthcare, it doesn't matter if you're in the corporate world, it doesn't matter if you decide to become an entrepreneur. Everybody has reasons for choosing these professions, and they might not be based off of service, off of
Mhm.
serving. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like it could be, and listen, I'm not judging anybody. I'm not shaming anybody for the reasons that they are choosing to pursue whatever career they're choosing. But remember, they're going to be, you're going to find the different drive, the different reasons from everybody regardless of what the profession is.
Right. And their feelings are valid at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There are. Now, does that impact, who they're in front of and the kind of work that they're doing and what they're reproducing in that space? Absolutely, it does. Right. But again, at the end of the day, it's up to you. You get to decide what your input is going to be.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, people are impacted by that. Like let's talk about like even just the basics with parenting, right? Like there are some parents that are like super engaged and others that aren't. And again, I'm not judging or shaming. Like maybe you travel a lot or maybe you're a single parent. I'm not judging at all. But again, that type of input is going to impact the child that you're around. So
Mhm.
again, I feel like I'm trying to be neutral here because we kind of have to give everybody the benefit of the doubt because everybody's perspective is going to look different, right?
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
mean, Kristen, you're coming from that space. I have 3 kids that one in university, one in high school, and one in elementary school. So I see a massive difference in that range. And then Andrew, you're getting like firsthand comments and experience from Isabella. Isabella's sharing some great stuff with you. But again, like we could, Andrew, you and I could be doing this for just the sake of doing it and getting paid,
Mhm.
right? We're
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, we have flexibility, but we've decided to put our heart and soul into this,
Mhm.
right? And Christina, I
Mhm.
know you have too. This is why we're working well together. So, anyways, that's just my point. Just trying to be neutral and like let's look at everybody's point of view and why they've chosen what they've chosen.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, it's just for the people at the top to really, really see how much the wellness of educators affects the students.
Yeah.
Just the same way as the way how much the wellness of a mental state of a parent affects the child. Does the mental state wellness factor level of an educator, how much that affects the classroom?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
They need to take a second and really like reshift a
Yeah.
little bit,
Mm-hmm.
because it's easy to say, other factors and, parents and those are factors, but they're an important factor as well.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And obviously I think, if just because you chose to be in a profession doesn't mean, like you said, Christina, that your feelings aren't valid in like, I don't want to say complaining, but in sharing, the hard parts of it, right? Like, I think any profession, even if you chose to be a doctor, right? Like, I'm sure doctors sit there saying, "What the heck did I do to myself?" Like, I didn't know that the healthcare system was in this, you know, condition or whatever. I just came here to heal people, right? And so there's reasons why people get into professions, but it's also okay to be like, wow, this is freaking hard. And you know what? Because of this, and I still believe in what I do, I'm going to seek out and maybe share my thoughts. And because that's what's going to help too is, we all know by staying quiet and just taking it all, it's not going to change anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what can you do if you're in the system? How can you share your feelings with admin? How can you maybe collaborate and start, like you said, Christine, you started a yoga at lunch, and that was self-initiated, doesn't take
Yeah.
any money. Just, hey,
No.
let's do something,
And
right?
it's
Let's
not always about the money too, right?
No,
We
exactly.
yeah, we can't just always say there's no budget, there's no funding,
Yeah, yeah,
Um
exactly. So there's so many layers to this.
yeah.
And if you listen to last week, we really touched upon this idea of, it starts with us, right? It starts with identifying what's happening in ourselves and understanding that there's factors outside of ourselves that, yes, can change, which we are all agreeing to, but that how can you choose to look at things differently, to advocate for yourself, to set boundaries, to,
Mhm.
the list goes on in order to improve my own experience. Because at the end of the day, it's your experience.
Yeah, and creating even support systems and communities sometimes.
Yeah.
Like there's Facebook groups of people that come and they share their struggles and give each other ideas, and I think that's an important thing too for educators to consider. And it actually came up in the questionnaire where people were like, I think it would be a good idea for surrounding schools in the community to come together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what I'm dealing with um you know families and situations, and what's worked for you,
Yeah.
like validating, like someone else is dealing with the same issues, like that I'm not alone. Those
Yeah.
things are very powerful as well, building
Mhm.
like a community, a support group.
Mhm.
And a lot of people stated that they would find that helpful, and again, those don't cost any money. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's not just about um budgets and that, it's even just about advocating for yourself and seeing what you need and creating that for yourself as well, that your role in the situation.
So what are
Exactly.
your thoughts on, like, when you think about these teachers, and I'm going back to teachers because that's the survey that we put out there. Um like, just you were saying advocating for yourself, like, so would it be fair to say to teachers that if you're burnt out and your school's not doing anything for you, go and do something for yourself, like go and find avenues, like you're saying community, which I totally agree. Even with parenting, remember, we used to live with extended family, and so that was a way that we were able to get
Mhm.
support in the home because the grandparents were there, or an aunt and uncle were there, or whatever it was, right? So but now we don't really live like that anymore, so relying on what's around us in our community becomes important to gain that support. But would it be fair enough to say that if you're stressed out at school, go and do something outside of school if you're not getting the support there? Like, go and join a yoga class, go and start meditating on your own, go and start journaling, go and see a therapist. Like, would that be too much to ask? And again, I'm not saying it from I'm not saying it in a way where, you know, I'm thinking teachers are lazy, or like, stop whining and complaining, go and do something. I'm just saying, would you feel like that would be the best way to get them where they need to be for what they need to be in a classroom?
Yeah, and I think it's easier said than done.
Yeah, tell
when
me
you're
more.
when you're in the state of burnout,
Yeah.
like your mental fog and clarity is so altered
Hmm.
that even the thought of like what do I need to do to feel better is difficult.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
almost seems impossible
Hmm.
because you're so exhausted. Do you know
Right.
what I mean?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I think it would be helpful, and I encourage people in my life that are struggling that are in education, like making time for yourself is crucial, setting proper boundaries with work, making sure you're, eating properly, exercising, meditating, like all those things. But again, having gone through it, I think it's difficult for some people, not having the support around them. Um, sorry. It's difficult for them to even know how to move forward.
Hmm.
Some people need the guidance. So I think maybe having the workshops around identifying burnout, stress management, things that you can bring to yourself on a daily level, those achievable tools, bringing more of that in the schools for educators is very important.
So
Mhm.
what about okay, so we worked at a school, and I remember the principal was she was like so engaged and so trying to find ways to support her teachers, and was willing to put these programs together for teachers in the space, like, we're going to do it at lunchtime, or we're going to do it after school.
Oh no, it makes a complete difference.
But here was the thing. She's like, it would be really good if everyone pitched in $5, because now you have some skin in the game, so you're going to show up. That's number one. And then we're going to do it after school so everybody can be a part of the program. But then there are some teachers that are like, no, I don't want to have to pay for it out of my pocket. Why should I have to pay for it out of my pocket? And then when school is done at 2:30 or 3 o'clock, I'm out of here. Like nobody wants to stay after school. So like when you have administrators that are trying to make when they're trying to make a difference and trying to give their teachers and their staff the support, like how do you work around those that are just so not interested? Like is this that part of that burnout that you're talking about?
Yeah, and like I think even being maxed out and feeling that way, of course at 3 o'clock, 3:30, you want to go home. Like
Okay. Right.
you're physically done for the day.
Right.
But in the questionnaire, one of the questions was, what's your preferred delivery
Okay.
of these workshops,
Okay.
that you requested? And a lot of people said um PA days, when we're there,
Right.
we're right. It's like a work day. We're paid to be there. The students aren't around. Like it's a day for us. And some people said live in person during lunch hour.
Mhm.
But again, not everyone's going to agree with that.
Right.
So yeah, it's really hard to please everybody at the end of the day.
Right.
Yeah.
There's
I
no
think I did.
perfect
Yeah, and I think I did see, like, online, like, working
online.
online
Some
as an
people
option.
want intimate in person,
Yeah,
but
smaller
it's
groups.
it's just difficult to like make something work for everybody.
Yeah,
Everybody's in different life situations and
yeah.
different demands in their life, right?
And I think at the end of the day, it's not about how many people you're going to please or how many people you're going to engage with, but it's just still putting it out there. Like,
Mhm.
putting it out there, you're going to reach who you're going to reach,
Mhm.
and we've seen it. Like, we've seen it when we've done, teacher stuff, even parent stuff, like, I'm pretty sure like 90% of the parents who show up to our parent engagement nights, they already know what we're talking about. Like
Yeah,
they're in it.
that's true.
They believe in what we're trying to
Yeah.
do. They believe in supporting mental health at home. And it's really the ones who probably don't show up who need it the most. But
Mhm.
again, we can't control them, right? We can't control the ones who decide to show up, and same with the principals. But if we continue to put it out there, right? Reminding people we're here, we're supporting you, checking in, providing little like it's just that like almost subconscious understanding that I'm supported and that I
It's
have options and that when I'm ready to dive a little bit deeper into this, then I know where I can go
you know what?
versus just being like, I got nothing, right?
Sorry, and in my head, I'm thinking you're right. And when I keep talking about grassroots, it's almost like this has to be a part of, let's say, teacher training. Like, what if this
Mhm.
was a part of teachers' college?
Yeah.
Not only understanding how to take care of your mental health, but understanding how you can implement some of this mindfulness into your classroom. I mean, I know that some teachers are already doing it. Like I know when my middle one was in elementary school, one of her teachers used to do breathing before they started their day, or they would do gratitudes, or they would do like a few mindful movement yoga postures after lunch to wake everybody up and all that kind of stuff. But I just wonder if that's something that could be implemented at that level where we're being taught at a very, very crucial early time in our career, or in our education, that taking care of ourselves is so important,
Mhm.
Yeah.
right?
Well, unfortunately, with regards to curriculum,
Mhm.
kindergarten, it's a big part of the curriculum.
Okay.
Sorry,
Like mindfulness?
I have to get her. I'm sorry.
It's
Give me
okay.
a sec.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm really sorry.
Don't worry.
So one thing that is a little bit of a issue with regards to curriculum is, and I've lived it teaching kindergarten for so many years, there part of the kindergarten curriculum is self-regulation.
Mhm.
It is embedded in the curriculum. We teach them about zones and how to calm themselves down. It's like literally built in. We have calming spaces in the room. Smell the flower, blow out the candle. Like we teach them all these things, which is amazing because of their stage of development, and that's when they really need to start learning those things.
Mhm.
And then unfortunately, after grade 1 in the curriculum, it gets lost.
Yeah.
It gets lost. So I think
The academics get in like more
focused,
focused. Yeah.
right? Just like how they started bringing in financial literacy into the
Mhm.
into the curriculum. Now we need emotional literacy and into the curriculum. So I
Yeah.
think that would be a big help as well,
Mhm.
to really make sure that it's being taught to the children after grade 1.
Yeah. Absolutely. We agree. When that's why we're doing what we're doing
Yeah.
is really trying to show that emphasis and the benefits that it has on these students. So listen, we're gonna keep the form and survey open. If anyone's listening and wants to go and provide their insight a little bit more, please do so, because this information is really valuable in us, again, providing service, even just giving feedback to the administration at schools and at school boards. And then, it it's going to be like step by step, right? We're all trying to do our part. And we do encourage you all to also seek out your own support, um, notice the signs of burnout, understand that there are options for help, and um, you're not alone. You're really not alone in feeling this way, and there's nothing wrong with you if you feel this way.
Mhm.
It's just simply a part of life, um, and the ebbs and flows of the way it goes. Um, so yeah, thank you all for listening. Any last little comments, ladies?
No, I encourage people to keep filling out the survey. It's not finished. I feel like it could be something just keeps evolving, and I really like seeing people's perspectives on, their experiences and what they're going through. So I encourage people to keep doing that. I encourage people to again listen to the prior episode, which will
Yeah.
really, we touched on a lot of good factors that I think a lot of educators will connect with. And yeah, we just keep going and keep advocating and keep building community and supporting each other along the way is
Yeah.
Yeah.
important.
Figure out how we can all be better and do better, right?
Exactly. So thank you everyone. Thanks you everyone for listening. And we will be back next week. If there's ever a topic you want us to discuss on here, let us know. Reach us in all the different ways you can. And share what you're learning, share any insights. We are learning from you just as much as we hope you're learning from us. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.